Hello again, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for this Monday's edition of Alaska Weather, Memorial Day, 31st day of May 2021, June 1st tomorrow already. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show. Up first is, hazardous weather graphic. Got a winter weather advisory, believe it or not, out for the southeastern Brooks Range, and that's including Coldfoot, Weissman, Arctic Village, Chandelar, places like that. And that's for snow, 3 to 5 inches of snow to fall, and that is out tonight into early Tuesday, tomorrow. And the snowfall expected to be above 3,000 feet, below about 3,000 or 2,500 feet. No accumulating snow is expected. So even above 3,000 feet, expected to be heavy, of the heavy wet variety. So don't look for any to be blowing around if the winds kick up high enough. But there is a wind advisory out for the eastern Alaska Range, and that's kicks into effect 1 p.m. Tuesday afternoon, and is in effect Tuesday afternoon through Tuesday evening until 1 a.m. Wednesday morning. So about a 12-hour stretch. They're expecting winds of 20, gusting maybe 40 miles an hour, and there's a possibility of seeing a few gusts to 60 miles an hour through the passes there of the eastern Alaska Range. Other than that, no other watches, warnings, or advisories out anywhere around the state. And satellite imagery showing that spiral out in the Bering Sea. That's the low pressure area that dropped down out of the Arctic over the last several days, came down from northeast to southwest and brought the strong gusty winds to areas of the state and the chillier temperatures. That now out over the central Bering Sea, continuing a slow westward progression there, kicking off a few showers around the Pribilof Islands and really just the north central Bering Sea. South of there, not much going on. AKwx, maybe a few showers, some clouds extending down to the eastern Aleutians, and anywhere from 500ths to maybe 1500ths of an inch of precipitation did fall from Unalaska Island over toward like Falls Pass area. Otherwise, that's about it for precipitation of that band of clouds, and another elongated band of clouds with a weakening front south of the western Aleutians there. And then we've got roll this again. We've got moisture moving on up in toward the panhandle there. Kind of a couple of waves along the frontal boundary there, bringing pretty good rainfall amounts into the northern, or into all of the panhandle there, and the eastern North Gulf Coast. That moisture, some of that spreading northwestward in across Prince William Sound today with rain, Kodiak Island on up into Turnagain Arm area, some rain advancing, and also across the Kenai Peninsula, just about ready to get to the Chugach Mountains and into northern Cook Inlet area, or into Cook Inlet, Anchorage, Palmer area, and maybe the Susitna Valley here later on this evening. Otherwise, cloudy skies, Copper River Basin, a little breezy there up over the eastern interior areas. Let's see, it was Delta Junction had winds gusting at about 30 miles an hour, and that's about the strongest wind gust in the interior today. And rainfall amounts, though, were a little on the heavy side here for the 12-hour period ending at 3 p.m. this afternoon. Yakutat picked up just a little over an inch of precipitation. Juneau, about 7/10 of an inch. And Petersburg had nearly an inch of rain during that same time frame there. And just under an inch fell at Metlakatla. So the entire stretch of the panhandle there up into the North Gulf Coast, seeing a fair amount of rain, sometimes observations carrying moderate, possibly heavy at times. And back Kodiak had about 4/10 of an inch of precipitation today, with north winds gusting to 30 miles an hour, cloudy skies. Otherwise, sunshine breaking out over the Kuskokwim Valley there, also portions of the Yukon Valley into Norton Sound and Seward Peninsula. Interior areas, warmest was around the Fairbanks area, temperatures rising into the lower 70s. Lower 70s also at McGrath, had 72, and Fairbanks and Nenana, both 72 degrees today. And also Big Lake there in southern Susitna Valley had 71, Talkeetna 72, but now clouds kept it cooler over the Kenai Peninsula and North Gulf Coast, Copper River Basin there, with more cloud cover with that system coming up. A couple of surges, actually several surges of moisture coming up, one moving through with mostly clouds and some rain. The heavier rain back with that next one, eastern North Gulf Coast into the northern Panhandle. And then another band yet southwest of there, developing with a low that's just barely on the chart there, south of Kodiak Island. On the chart, there's a frontal boundary, actually late morning hours, kind of hard to pick out, so I just drew it to the pressure field there. At this time, it's probably in farther than what I have it drawn there, but areas of moderate to heavy rainfall in Kodiak Island, up along the North Gulf Coast, into the Panhandle, again with nearly an inch falling from, again, Metlakatla on up to into the Petersburg area, and of course a little over an inch at Yakutat, about 3/4 of an inch at Juneau. Otherwise, pretty precipitation free. Some of that moisture getting into the eastern Copper River Basin, Prince William Sound, working northwestward toward northern Cook Inlet or Cook Inlet, and clear skies over the interior, especially the northwest interior, the Seward Peninsula, as you can see. Yukon Delta looking pretty good. Few isolated showers popping up over the mountainous or hilly terrain there in the afternoon due to the afternoon heating. Bristol Bay there looking mostly sunny. Scattered showers of that system over the Bering Sea to the Fox Islands, and then clearing out to the west central Aleutian areas in the western Bering Sea looking really good. And for tonight, that low kind of slows down, almost becomes stationary there, starts drifting around a little, and actually will start pulling off to the south a little bit there west of the Pribilof. Still a chance of rain, St. Paul, St. George, or showers, and a risk of a shower for the eastern Aleutians, nothing significant. That front weakens as it presses up along the coastline there from the Panhandle, so periods of rain, especially moderate at times, possibly heavy briefly, north coast of the Panhandle, North Gulf Coast this evening, and then mostly cloudy showers over the interior. Chance of snow up there on the Arctic coast into the eastern Brooks Range. Again, looking for 3 to 5 inches above 3,000 feet, southeastern Brooks Range, and fair over the western interior. Tuesday, tomorrow, chance of rain continues, southern southeast coast. Another system down there may spread some moisture up into the southern Panhandle, more showery to the north with possible clearing along the eastern North Gulf Coast, and leftover moisture keeps it mostly cloudy, cool, and showery. After the rainfall tonight over south central Alaska, Prince William Sound, high pressure building in along the North Gulf Coast. I'll kick the afternoon winds up through Turnagain Arm, southeasterlies, northern Cook Inlet area. Otherwise, the interior, partly to mostly cloudy with showers, risk of an afternoon thunderstorm along that trough axis, and chance of snow and rain continue from the Brooks Range on out to the Arctic coast. Mostly sunny and breezy continued over the northwest interior, and still lingering showers out over the Bering Sea near the Pribilofs with that system. Some of that might start dropping down toward the central Aleutians. And for Wednesday, that system troughs out and does drop better chance of light precipitation into Adak and Atka. And another weak trough still keeps the risk of a shower in for the Pribilofs and the Alaska Peninsula. Otherwise, drier over southern Alaska, but another trough weakened front comes up within, keeps it kind of unsettled for the North Gulf Coast and more so for the central and northern Panhandle. Interior, isolated showers, any one of which could develop into an isolated thunderstorm or two over the Alaska Range or the hills northeast of Fairbanks. Otherwise, showers a little more widespread with that trough and low pressure area over the western interior. And taking a look at the low temperatures for tonight, in the 20s, lower to mid there for the North Slope from the Brooks Range on out to the Arctic coast, and 20s, lower 30s for the Brooks Range. Upper 20s all the way down north side of the Seward Peninsula, near 30 St. Lawrence Island, near 40 for the Pribilofs. Upper 30s for the Aleutians, western and central areas. Fox Islands to the Alaska Peninsula, mid-40s Kodiak Island, and in the 40s southern Alaska, upper 40s near 50 for the Panhandle. Highs for tomorrow, cooler up in the interior there now, just probably in the 60s, lower to mid 60s. Might still squeak out a 70-degree reading, but not too likely there over the Kuskokwim Valley. Otherwise, lower to mid 30s North Slope and the Arctic coast, 55 to 63 for the Panhandle, upper 50s, lower 60s South Central Alaska, lower 50s Kodiak, 40s out west in the Bering Sea. And for the highs tomorrow, lows Wednesday morning, 20s Brooks Range out to the Arctic coast, 40s in the central interior, lower to mid 40s southern Alaska, Kodiak Island, and the Alaska Peninsula. And for the highs on Wednesday afternoon, 50s to mid 60s, still a little cooler yet in the interior, and upper 50s to lower 60s for the Panhandle, lower 50s Kodiak, and lower 30s for the Arctic coast.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Moving on to the first line weather graphic for Tuesday morning. IFR, most of the Brooks Range, central North Slope, Arctic coast eastward there to Mackenzie Bay, and then marginal VFR becomes VFR as you get south of the Brooks Range there into the interior. IFR, though, along the Alaska Range, central Alaska Range, on up to across the 40-mile country, Upper Tanana Valley, marginal VFR, and then back to IFR, Kamishak Bay, southern Kenai Peninsula up into Prince William Sound, North Gulf Coast, all the Gulf into most of the Panhandle except Lincoln Island Glacier Bay marginal. VFR still extending a ways off the southwest coast there, but IFR back into the Pribilofs and eastern Aleutians. IFR from Amchitka westward to Shimia, Seward Peninsula, VFR. And for the afternoon forecast, looking one more there. There we go, Tuesday afternoon. Marginal VFR with just some lingering IFR there over the eastern Brooks Range and North Slope areas, but Arctic Coast marginal, and it looks like marginal VFR into the northern half of the Koyukuk Valley, Yukon Flats, Porcupine River down southwestward into the Fairbanks area, marginal VFR, and that extends down to across Healy, Denali Park, and the western Alaska Range, and part of the Susitna Valley, Cook Inlet, right into Bristol Bay, IFR Kodiak Island on up to the North Gulf Coast, and now just over the southern Panhandle and the South Coast with marginal VFR elsewhere for the southeast coastal areas. VFR, Atka Island, IFR from about Adak westward to Shimei and Attu, northward to St. Matthew Island, Pribilof still IFR. So moving on to the Wednesday morning forecast here. IFR now down into the Koyukuk Valley, all the way down to the Yukon River there. Marginal VFR either side of that zone becomes VFR there. Kobuk Valley out toward Kotzebue, northwest coast to Cape Lisburne. And Seward Peninsula, Norton Sound, all VFR, Yukon Kuskokwim Delta. Then you get marginal VFR there in the southwest mountains, Kuskokwim Range, across the valley into Cook Inlet, Kenai Peninsula, and Prince William Sound, all marginal, with IFR southern 2/3 of the Panhandle, most of Kodiak Island, and the western Alaska Peninsula, Fox Islands, IFR, Pribilofs. Let's see, Adak Atka, marginal VFR, and on to the afternoon. Better conditions, eastern central interior looking pretty good with VFR, area of marginal VFR from the lower or mid to lower Yukon River Valley area, but the Delta VFR, Norton Sound VFR, southern half of the peninsula, Seward Peninsula VFR. IFR there, eastern Fogneck Island, Chiniak Marmot Bay area, right up across Montague Island, just south of Resurrection Bay, and maybe Cape St. Elias, otherwise marginal VFR, Prince William Sound, eastward to Cordova, Yakutat, all the Panhandle forecast to be marginal at times in the afternoon Wednesday. VFR from the Copper River Basin northward to, say, Arctic Village. And for passes, Anaktuvik, IFR becoming marginal, and that same trend for Radigan as well. Those conditions in the morning, marginal VFR, maybe if you're lucky get some VFR at times in the later part of the afternoon. Lake Clark and Merrill, though, occasional marginal VFR throughout the entire day, and rainy, same forecast, occasionally marginal. And for the Windy Pass, starting out pretty good VFR, increasing chances of marginal VFR or occasional marginal VFR, mostly in the afternoon hours. And Isabel, look for it to be marginal at some point in the day tomorrow. And for Mentasta, starting out marginal, may improve if band of moisture lifts northward and get the drying behind it, may go VFR later on in the day. And Tanita, occasional marginal VFR. Portage, marginal VFR, possible IFR eastern entrance at any time on Tuesday. And for Chilkoot and White, marginal VFR. Freezing levels, 6,000 feet central southern interior, 8 to 10,000 feet there across the Panhandle, and icing areas of light to isolated moderate rime icing there coming in southern Alaska along the Alaska Range, southern Panhandle, North Slope, and Brooks Range, and jet stream 105 knots in across the northern Panhandle, and at 9,000 feet south to southwest slope up into the North Gulf Coast, northeast 25 to 45 knots northern Bering Sea, the northwest interior, and turbulence. Look for occasional moderate chop there along the northwest coast, and from the Bering Strait area, western Seward Peninsula, down to about St. Lawrence Island, otherwise light to isolated moderate chop on Alaska Island, western Alaska Peninsula, maybe the Barren Islands, southern Kenai, and northern Cook Inlet.
Welcome back to another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. I'm meteorologist Dave Snyder, and joining me once again is Eric Stevens from GINA, the Geographic Information Network of Alaska, based up at the University of Alaska Fairbanks. Eric, welcome back to the program.
Hey, I'm glad to be here.
And once again, you brought some wonderful satellite pictures to show us and do a little show and tell about. It's just amazing. I can get lost in satellite pictures all day. What did you bring today?
Right. Well, weather satellites, what are they good for? Yeah. Of course, there's the pretty pictures that they bring us. You know, we've got a picture here from April of 2012. Okay. The Sumi NPP satellite, it's what they call a polar orbiter, which means it covers Alaska because we're near the pole. Beautiful image. You can see a storm off of southeast Alaska, the sea ice along the Bering Sea up into the Arctic. A really nice picture, and this is important because it allows a forecaster to see where the storms are, where the ice is, where the clear areas are. You need to know where the weather is now if you're going to forecast it into the future. Exactly. So satellites give us these good pictures. This is called surveillance of the weather. And you know, that same satellite also has another picture from a little more recently, August of 2014, Tropical Storm Iselle bearing down on the Hawaiian Islands. Okay. Hawaii doesn't get hit by a whole lot of tropical storms or hurricanes. Sometimes it does. And here's a picture from the same satellite, the Sumi NPP Polar Orbiter. It shows Tropical Storm Iselle approaching the Hawaiian Islands from the southeast. You can see the storm swirling away there, and then there's the Hawaiian Islands. This is a tropical storm, not quite as strong as a hurricane because we don't see the eye wall in there. This is still a serious weather system. And all of this information comes just from that satellite picture. It's so much information, and it's wonderful to look at. You see the beauty and the awe of nature right there depicted in that weather satellite. We call it a polar orbiter because the satellite flies high over the globe. Maybe we could look here at we happen to bring the planet Earth with us. This is our satellite. A polar orbit flies really close to the Earth, maybe 800 kilometers over the Earth, and goes up over the pole and then back down, and then the Earth spins under the satellite as it goes by. That's in contrast to the geostationary birds, which are much further out. And they don't view Alaska quite as well. So we love those polar orbiter satellites here in Alaska.
So when we're a lot closer, we get much better details and imagery and an idea of a better maybe position of what's going on when it's passing right over Alaska or right over Hawaii.
Yes, exactly right. The polar orbiter gives such a good view of places like Alaska. And because it's close to the planet, there's another aspect of satellites in the polar orbit that is helpful for weather forecasting. It's an aspect that's maybe not as immediately obvious as the pretty pictures that we see. And that is the capacity for the satellite to produce what's called a sounding. That is finding the vertical profile of temperature and moisture in the atmosphere. We've all heard of weather balloons. Weather balloons are launched here in Alaska twice a day at a number of airports, everywhere from Barrow to St. Paul Island to Kodiak, Anchorage and Fairbanks, Yakutat, a number of places. Launch these balloons, and we've got a picture of a balloon being launched at an airport, and the balloon goes up. It's pulling a little package, an instrument package with it that reports temperature, pressure, humidity data back, and we use that information to help feed what are called numerical weather prediction models.
The models.
The models, right. It's a mouthful, so we just call it the models. And these computer simulations, these models are computer programs that simulate the motion of the atmosphere. Well, how does a model know what the future will be like? You have to tell the model what things are like now. And you give it all kinds of information, including information from these satellite sounders. Very important. Just how important are they? We have a recent, comparatively recent study that really brings home, and this is Superstorm Sandy. We have a track image here of the track of Hurricane Sandy. Was down in the Caribbean around Cuba, and then it moved north over the ocean, offshore of the eastern seaboard, and then at the last minute, Sandy made what's called the left hook. It turned hard to the left and slammed into New Jersey. Was a major problem for the mid-Atlantic states, a calamity. It fused with another weather system and became known, this is not an official title, but Superstorm Sandy. It was quite the weather event. Well, the modelers, after the event, there's a group of modelers in Europe. They have a very good model, a frustratingly good model if you're the Americans trying to pursue their excellence. They reran their model afterwards in what's called a data denial study, where they kept everything the same. So this is 6 months after Sandy, but they went back, they reran the same model, they fed the model the same initial conditions, that is telling the model, okay, here's where we think Sandy is, down near Cuba in the Caribbean. Everything was the same as it was in the real forecast, except they didn't let the model know.
No satellite data.
No satellite data.
Okay.
So we're going to put that over here. No
Yeah.
satellite data for you. The resulting forecast 5 days out,
Yeah.
back when the real Sandy was happening and the model had the satellite data, the forecast was pretty good. We've got a graphic here on the left side. We show the forecast of where Sandy would be, and that's the red bullseye on the left. It's just south of where it actually wound up hitting. Not a bad forecast from this computer simulation, 120 hours out. On the right, you see the same model, but it didn't have the satellite data to help it understand things. And the storm is way offshore. It misses. The forecast is more accurate when the model has the satellite data. So that's the idea today we want to convey is weather satellites. They're important because they show us the pictures of where storms are. We see good examples of this. Yeah, the surveillance right now, it's great to look at those pictures. And in addition, behind the scenes, maybe not immediately obvious, but the models have to have that satellite data for them to be good forecasts. And then a meteorologist uses that information to help everyone with the forecast of where the storms will be in the future.
That is fascinating information that we can look at, see where things have been, because you can't know where you're going if you don't know where you've been. That's that old adage there. But seeing that satellites are actually helping us move forward in the weather information system is pretty amazing stuff.
You bet.
And if you want to check out Eric's satellite images that he's been talking about, whether that's something from today or last week or even much further back in Alaska history, you can easily do that yourself. Go to www.gina.alaska.edu and you can find those images there. Eric, thanks so much for joining us once again. And again, we will join you hopefully again soon for another edition of Alaska Weather Facts, where you'll tell us more really cool information about the satellites over our heads in Alaska. Thanks for joining us tonight, and we'll see you next time.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Today's sea ice analysis, not much different from what we had yesterday. Still looks like mostly ice-free water there along the south coast of the Seward Peninsula. And a little bit less ice even in Norton Bay than what we had yesterday. And just about the ice-free south of St. Lawrence Island and continuing to thin out there through the Bering Strait, western Arctic coast. And going on to the coastal water forecast there for the Panhandle tomorrow, pretty light winds, south coast, east to south are variable at 10 knots, 7-foot seas, south 10 to 15 knots on the north coast, sea 7 feet, Clarence Strait southeast at 15. Otherwise, central northern inside waters, south winds at 10 knots with 2-foot seas. And for Wednesday, Lynn Canal, south winds come up to 20 knots, seas build to about 4 feet. Otherwise, Stevens Passage and Clarence Strait, looking at southerlies at 15 knots, seas around 3 feet. Southwest 15 knots for the south coast there, central coast and central north coast actually. South winds 15 knots, seas 7 feet. And for Prince William Sound, looking at a southeast wind at 20 knots tomorrow, seas around 4 feet. Also for the North Gulf Coast, small craft advisories, southeast 20 knots, and the 8-foot seas responsible for the small craft advisory level there. And for the Barren Islands, Kamishak Bay, small craft advisories there also, southeast 25, 8 to 9-foot seas. Southern Cook Inlet, south at 20, north of the Forelands, southwest 15. And for Wednesday, Northern Cook Inlet, northeast winds, pretty light at 10 knots, seas 3 feet, probably becoming just variable in the afternoon. Variable to north at 10 for Prince William Sound, north 15 Southern Cook Inlet, light winds for Kamishak Bay out of the east, Barrett Islands east of 15, North Gulf Coast, east winds 20 knots, seas 6 feet. Kodiak Island, southeast winds 15 knots, 4 to 7-foot seas, Sitkanack Castle Cape, southeast at 15, Bristol Bay, southeast at 10, pretty light there with slight seas. And the Bering Sea side of the Alaska Peninsula, northwest at 20. Pacific side, north winds 20 knots. Outlook for Wednesday, southeast 15 for the peninsula, seas 3 to 5 feet. Bristol Bay, east at 15 with 2-foot seas. Sitkanack to Castle Cape, variable to northeast at 10 with 6-foot seas. Southeast 10 for the east side of Kodiak Island, otherwise Shelikof Strait looking at a northeast breeze at 15 knots. And for the Unalaska Island forecast tomorrow, northwest 20 to 25 knots, 4 to 7-foot seas. Unmak Island, winds coming down to west at 10 to 15, 3 to 6-foot seas. Light winds also for Adak and Atka out of the west at 10. Amchitka Island, northwest 15. Kiskashimi and Attu, north at 15. And for Wednesday, north winds 20 knots from Shimia to Kiska. Amchitka, northwest at 20, 5-foot seas. Adak and Atka, northwesterlies, only 10 to 15 knots, 4 to 5-foot seas. Variable winds 10 to 15 knots or 5 to 15 knots for the Fox Islands on Wednesday, with seas running 3 to 4 feet. For the southwest coast, we've got small craft advisories, Yukon Delta coast tomorrow, north winds 25 knots. Small crafts also for the St. Lawrence Island zone, north at 30, 6-foot seas there, but only 10 knots out of the north for the Pribilofs, north 20 for the area south of Nunivak Island and Norton Sound, north 15, St. Matthew Island, northeast 20. Wednesday, north 25 knots, so small craft advisories for St. Matthew Island. Small craft advisories continue for St. Lawrence Island as well. North 30 knots, 7-foot seas. Lighter though for Norton Sound, down to 15 knots, 3-foot seas. 20-knot winds for the Yukon Delta coast out of the north, and southeast 15. There for the area south of Nunivak Island, Pribilofs, south of 10. And up on the central eastern Beaufort Sea coast tomorrow, northeast northeast breeze, 15 knots. But small craft advisories there, say from about Point Lay on down to Cape Beaufort, 25-knot winds, and then Cape Beaufort to Cape Thompson, northeast 30. Cape Thompson to Wales, small craft advisories, north winds 30 knots. And for Wednesday, no change there. 30-knot winds out of the north and northeast from Wales up to Cape Beaufort. Small craft advisories continue for the western Arctic coast, but come up to 20 knots on the central coast. And brisk wind advisories for the eastern Beaufort Sea coast. East winds sustained 25 knots. For tonight, look for flurries, light snow showers up on the north slope Arctic coast into the eastern Brooks Range. Showers, mostly cloudy skies south of the Brooks Range to the Alaska Range. Periods of rain, possibly heavy at times, especially this evening, with that front pressing into the North Gulf Coast and Panhandle back to Kodiak Island. A few showers out in the Bering Sea. For tomorrow, cloudy skies, mostly cloudy, showery, southern Alaska. Rain mostly over the southern Panhandle, risk of a thunderstorm in the interior. Outlook for Wednesday, mostly cloudy, scattered showers.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.